Hello all, we're here for another member focus. We're with Tiffany, and we're at, you're going to have to help me with the name.
The Weismann Hood Institute, which is formerly the McLaughlin Research Institute.
Okay, and how long have you all been in Great Falls?
Well, we are your local friendly research institute. We've actually been here for 70 years. We celebrated our 70th anniversary in September.
So 70 years of research, and over that time, what kind of research we have some cool instruments behind us, but what kind of research has been done in this building or with you all?
Well, started downtown with Ernst Eichwald. He was actually recruited to Great Falls to be a physician, but he said, I'm only coming if I can start a lab. And he actually was a transplantation biologist, so he studied transplants. And so it kind of started in immunology and transplants, but then over the years it kind of developed more into different areas. So for a very long time, and now also currently, we focused a lot on neurodegenerative diseases, so diseases that affect the brain and brain health and memory. But we've also expanded more recently into a lot of diseases that just impact our aging and rural population. So.
Okay, so 70 years ago, what were we transplanting?
It was a lot of blood transplants and trying to understand how the immune system is involved in rejecting or accepting transplants. Yeah. So it was mostly in mice, but it was actually downtown in the old Columbus building.
Okay, yeah. We still struggle with that, right? Like I hear these stories of people still not being able to accept different transplants, different organs. It's still a thing. So 70 years ago he started, and we're still struggling with that.
Yes, that is still a thing. People still have to be immunosuppressed if they receive an organ transplant, so that your body doesn't reject that. And there's still a lot of science that's being done that was based on the early work at the Institute.
Okay, and so you have a name change.
Mm-hmm.
Why the name change?
To celebrate 70 years and to kind of move the Institute into this new era, we have renamed after two famous, very influential Montana scientists, Herb Weismann, who's from Great Falls, who's the director of the Stem Cell Institute at Stanford,
Wow.
and Leroy Hood, who is considered one of the fathers of systems biology. He basically developed the technology that allowed us to do the Human Genome Project. He's also from Montana, Shelby. The word just came to me. You can see his old football picture of Shelby. So in order to honor their accomplishments, and also because they've been very involved in the Institute, remain involved on our scientific advisory board, moving forward, we decided we were going to transition to the Weismann Hood Institute.
Okay, yeah, it's an easy name to remember, but it's very difficult for our community to make that adjustment. It's just like being here 70 years with the same name and switching it. It's been an adjustment for all of us.
Yes, you will hear us around town say the MRI, which is what we used to be known, and then we'll switch and say actually the Weismann Hood Institute. So yeah, you might hear it both ways for a little bit longer, but we're hoping moving forward we will just forever be known as the Weismann Hood Institute.
Perfect. And anyone can ask any questions that you have, and hopefully we'll be able to answer them. Definitely not me. I know very little knowledge, but hopefully we'll be able to answer the questions. What is the relationship with Toro?
Great question. There's actually one more letter after Weismann Hood Institute.
Okay.
You might also hear us referred to as WIT, Weismann Hood Institute at Touro University. And that's because around that same time we officially affiliated with Touro University. So Touro University is the parent university under which Touro College of Osteopathic Medicine, which is our new medical school, which is just 2 blocks that way. Yeah. Touro Com Montana is under Touro University. So when the new medical school came here, it was just really exciting for us because we thought, well, wow, there's going to be medical students a couple blocks away that are going to want to do research, and we love to have students in our lab, so why don't we actually officially affiliate with them? And so we are part of the Touro University umbrella now. If we're walking around, you might see Touro students here. We have nearly 40 that come in and out of the labs throughout the year. So we provide them the research space, research opportunities. Our faculty also teach there. So I teach immunology at the medical school. Some of our other faculty teach physiology. So it's been a really mutually beneficial relationship. It's been really fun to have the students here.
Yeah, so actually WIT is,
wit.
We just say WIT.
Wit,
So
you
struggle,
can say wit if everybody...
get witted, right? That's not proper language. language, but
Uh,
it kind of sounds cool.
I might adapt that.
Yeah,
We'll test it again later.
Yeah, because I think you're doing, maybe I'm wrong, but you need some volunteers for some studies, right?
Yes.
So maybe you could put that get with it and with the studies, just an idea. But what does that entail, and how can people get involved with that?
Yes, so you may have seen us recently on KRTV. We've got a commercial running for our Hero Registry.
Yeah, you're kind of famous right now. So.
Oh, everyone's famous in a small town. So the Hero Registry is because one of the things we're doing is we're moving into this new era of the Institute. Again, building off of this legacy. So whenever I say new era, I don't want to discount all the work that's been done because it really builds off of that. But we want to move the cool science that's happening in the labs that has been done using some of our mouse models here of disease and translate them into people. So is what we see in the lab really something that's going to impact human health? And so in order to do that, we created the Hero Registry. So if you're interested in participating in a study, and don't be scared of the word study, I can tell you what that might entail, and it's very minimal. You can sign up for the Hero Registry. We have a research coordinator here. She's also on that commercial, Rebecca Brown. She's a nurse, and she would call you and tell you about the study, and you can join if you want, or you can say no. You can just say no, not today, or no, never, and we'll take you off the list. So there's no obligation. The studies we have going on right now, as I said, are very minimal. So if we walk through my lab, you'll see that the girls that work in my lab are working on a blood sample. So we had a participant come in this morning. They met with Rebecca. They gave just a blood sample.
Okay.
Sometimes we collect stool. Future studies might collect other types of samples, but they will be really non-invasive. We have survey studies, those sorts of things too, that are trying to understand the healthcare landscape. So they're not scary, is what I'm trying to say. When we say we're going to study you, we really just are asking you to come be a part of what we're doing, and hopefully the people that have been involved. We've had over 40 participants in the study come in for a blood draw in the last year, and I think they've had a pretty good experience.
Okay, and we'll head over to the lab in a minute. But
yeah.
If I was to submit myself to the study, and you do your testing, and you find anything out, are you going to let me know, or is it kind of like, no, we just know that there's something there, and there is something there, but?
It kind of depends.
Okay.
So one of the things that we really believe in is that we want to make sure that if we give anybody back information and they're going to make health decisions on that, that we're following all the rules. And as you might expect, there's a lot of rules around that. And so it's a bit challenging sometimes to return research results to participants. That being said, it is being done, and we're actually trying to move in the direction of, at least for things that are pretty straightforward, like looking at genotypes and things, we're moving towards being able to tell you if you have a certain gene, with the caveat that we'll recommend that you go to a genetic counselor and get the official test done again. Because what we do in the lab here, is research assays are a bit different than the medical assays that have undergone all of that regulatory approval, like FDA and those sorts of things. So we would want to make sure that if you are going to make any sort of decisions based on the science that we do, that we would put you in the right hands of people that can make sure that information is accurate and that you actually know what to do with it.
So more of like a flag, hey, you might want to get this checked on.
Yes.
Because I know Chris Hemsworth did a whole TV series based on information he received.
Mm-hmm.
Now, not all of us have that type of money to do that, to discover that, but very similar to something like that.
Yes. If we found that if we move the study in the direction of providing people back their genetic information, which I do think that you should own your genetic information, it would, yes, be with the caveat of you should go get this run with the genetic counselor at Benefis. So we're kind of in the works for that. Again,
Okay.
We just want to be very careful. If you're going to make decisions on your health based on what we do here, we want to make sure that everything's in order.
Perfect. Any questions yet, Jordan?
No questions yet.
Okay. You want to walk over to the lab?
Yeah, let's walk over to the lab.
Okay.
Show you guys what they're doing.
See these cool things back here.
Yeah, we've got really old lab equipment here that we have collected over the years. These are always fun. And you'll see some much upgraded lab equipment when we go into the lab. We're currently in our library, which hosts, back in the day, journal articles for science were paper. So these books are all scientific journal articles that were published over the years. It's the Journal of Immunology, that's science. So it's pretty neat. We like to keep these around. But of course now all of this is on the internet, so But if you ever need, an old journal article that you can't find online, it's probably here. I'm going to take you to my lab. As I mentioned, we had a participant come in for my study, and I'll tell you a little bit about what we do before we go in. So I'm an immunologist. I study the immune system, and my study is funded by the National Institutes of Health, and it investigates how the immune system might overreact, and then when those overactive immune cells get into the brain, how that can contribute to neurodegeneration. So what we found is that in people that have Alzheimer's disease, is the main disease that we study, is that when you look at the brain tissue from those individuals after they pass, they have a lot of immune cells in the brain that normally are not there. And so what we do is we are trying to look at the signals outside of the brain that are causing those immune cells to want to go to a place that they should not be going, and to maybe contribute to some of the damage in the brain that leads to memory loss and all of those symptoms that happen when you have Alzheimer's disease. So when people join my study, they give a blood sample. We take the blood into the lab and we process it, which simply means we separate out the parts. We look at the number of immune cells in their blood, and then we take certain immune cells out and we look at the signals that they respond to, how well they function. We look at all of the signals that might be interacting within the blood that might be telling those immune cells to go somewhere they shouldn't go, essentially. So this is the Hensley McBain lab.
Literally your lab.
My lab, yeah. And this looks staged, but it's not, because they're actually in here working right now because we got a blood sample this morning. So what they're doing, let me actually introduce. This is Michaela Cook, she's my lab manager, and this is Hope Gasvoda, she's my research assistant. So another really fun thing about the Institute is because we get to do cool science here, we also get to employ local scientists. So Michaela they both graduated from the University of Providence. Michaela's been with me for almost 4 years, right? And Hope just joined the lab last year. But we get to keep really smart, really dedicated and driven people in Great Falls doing science in Great Falls, which I think is just really cool. So again, a lot of the research assistants we have here graduated from the University of Providence or Great Falls College MSU. So, but they're amazing. They do a majority of the work in the lab. So they've taken the blood, they spin it in this centrifuge, which is new, which was purchased using the National Institutes of Health grant that I got. They spin the blood down so they can get out the white blood cells. Those are those immune cells. And right now, they're actually doing some staining on the cells to try to look at how activated they are. And they're also doing a cool assay where they can tell if the cells are doing the jobs they're supposed to do. So your immune system is actually good. It protects you from infections. And the cells that we study, neutrophils, are supposed to eat bacteria to keep the bacteria from replicating in your body. But one of the things we're finding is they're less good at doing that in people with chronic inflammation or Alzheimer's disease, and maybe more good at doing things that aren't beneficial to you. So we kind of test this balance of, are they doing what they're supposed to? Are they doing things they're not supposed to? So we have a lot of cool assays we can do on the blood once we get it. Thanks, girls.
Thank you.
I'll walk you, so this is the rest of the lab. We have a hematology analyzer, which is very similar to what is in like a medical lab, so we can actually count the white blood cells really easily. We share a lab space with Dr. Andrea Grindelin, who, if you're going to the Great Falls College MSU Night Out for Science this weekend, she's going to be giving a talk on chronic wasting disease. She studies CWD, which is a prion disease in our deer and elk population. So if you're a hunter, some of the work we do here is really applicable to you as well. Any questions, or you want me to just keep going?
Keep going.
All right.
Doing great.
So we have a lot of equipment in here, obviously, that supports what we do. This is our flow cytometry room. My lab's using it today because this machine actually uses lasers to help us determine what cells are in the blood, and we can actually sort the cells, which means a certain cell type I can put in one tube and a certain cell type I can put in another tube. So this is our Sony. It's definitely my my baby.
We got a question.
Okay.
Are there job opportunities for high school students and college kids at the Institute?
Yes, great question. I love it. We have a summer internship program, and so we take high school and college age students, and so you should look on our website for that announcement and send in your materials if you're interested. So yeah, it's an 8-week program in the summer where you get to do a boot camp where you learn lab techniques, and then you rotate through all the labs at the Institute, and they get to do a presentation at the end. It's really fun, and it's also paid. Oh. Yeah, great question. I love that. So I can show you some other labs at the Institute.
Yeah.
All right. So you'll see along the walls we have all these scientific posters. So at science conferences, we do poster presentations, which are really like a science fair for adults, where we present our work for others to come and see, and we can go see other people's work. So when we do that, we usually will put them on the wall. So this is Dr. Levin's lab space. He is also a local Great Falls scientist. He also graduated from the University of Providence, but then he got his PhD at the University of Montana. And he's a biochemist, so he studies proteins. So where I study the immune system in neurodegeneration, he studies how the clumping of proteins in your brain may be contributing, which is a lot of these diseases, we call them protein misfolding diseases. So we know for Alzheimer's disease, these clumps of proteins kind of disrupt how the neurons work. So he has developed special assays that can tell if a certain person's protein is more likely to misfold or cause additional protein misfolding. So this is his space. And this is Mylene, his research assistant. She also graduated from the University of Providence. Hi, Mylene. Hi. She's purifying protein on this machine, what it's called? FPLC. I don't use it. But it basically can purify protein when they're making it or they're extracting it out of tissue. So. Hello. This is Michael Klingborn's lab space. This is his research assistant, Emily. Michael studies age-related macular degeneration, which is a degenerative disease of the eye that impacts our aging population. And so they're looking at how these certain cells in the eye basically die or become dysfunctional to cause AMD. Looks like they're doing some work down there. Let's get Pat. This is our microscope room. It's got a curtain because it's normally dark, but I turn the lights on for you guys. So we have a confocal microscope, which is a fancy microscope that can take images of things through the layer. So essentially you can make more of a, not 3D, but a better image because it takes multiple depth photos and then you kind of stack them together. So we use this to look at tissue. So of course a lot of us here are looking at brain tissue from mice. We also get tissue from, a lot of us get tissue from a brain bank in Seattle called the University of Washington Brain Lab. And there's actually Montana individuals that have donated their brains to that actual brain bank. So we get those brains, we can stain them and look at certain cells on our confocal microscope here and try to understand what's happening in the actual brain tissue as well.
So if you take you get a brain from Washington, you're looking for certain things that you guys are researching. Is there any time that something comes up where you're like, we're not researching that, but it's a red flag and we need to have a different institute look at it?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if ever we see something that is unusual and we don't understand, our first step would be to go back to the brain bank, and because they have neuropathologists and experts in those sorts of things actually at the brain bank. And we can ask them and they'll be like, oh yes, this person was also diagnosed with this disease, so that's probably what you're seeing there. Or they could be like, no, I actually don't know what that is. And then you're on a kind of an interesting fact-finding issue, which happens all the time in science. We think we know what we know, and then we look, and we have a hypothesis, and your hypothesis is completely disproven right away, and then you have to go to the next hypothesis. Or your hypothesis is you've got some data to suggest that you're right, and then you keep going down that track. But either of those things are likely, and if you ask some scientists, the first option is often more likely. So science is ever evolving. We just like to make sure we all have the integrity to look at the data, understand the data, interpret the data without bias, and then move on to the next question.
Good.
Yeah? All right, let's look around some more. So, this is the loudest part of the institute. These are our freezers. As you can imagine, we take a lot of samples and tissues. They get stored, so these are minus 80 degrees Celsius, and don't ask me to do that calculation right now, although I'm sure if Moses was around, he would be able to do it for you. This is our Turo student room. I think they're all in the lab, but like I said, the Turo students who are getting their DO at Turo College of Osteopathic Medicine, they want to do research. So they come here, and like I said, we have almost 40 throughout the year. So this is kind of their landing space when they come. They'll come here, put their stuff down, they'll interact with each other a lot and like talk about their projects, and then they'll go into the lab and do their thing and come back to their little space here. So I think they really like to come and be part of the science in the institute. And it's only about a half-mile away when I walk, so sometimes they're out walking because it's winter, but or sometimes because a lot of them aren't from Montana, I have to put on my mom voice and remind them to wear a coat. This is our postdoc room. This is Donna Sanders. Hi. So this is Anne. Sorry, this is Allison. Hi. So these two are actually a good time for me to talk about our center. So within the institute, we actually have something called the Center of Integrated Biomedical and Rural Health Research, which is a center of biomedical research excellence that's funded by the National Institute of Health. And so what it does is it provides money to the institute for us to study diseases that impact our rural population. So with that, we were able to hire additional employees. One of them is Allison, who is one of the employees, the main and maybe only employee in our core that's part of the center. So she runs all of the mouse studies for all the projects that are funded by the center. So she is completely invaluable in that way. Where'd you move from, Allison?
Omaha, Nebraska.
So yeah, we've actually recruited people in to fill some of these roles in addition to having our local scientists. And then Donna was hired as a postdoctoral scholar because she studies mental health and is really interested in ways that we can do early assessments and early interventions for children in order to kind of get ahead of the mental health crisis in Montana. You want to say anything else about it?
I just want to say that at Weismann Hood, you can study what you're passionate about. So that's my passion. I can't even believe I have this job. So I want anyone that's watching this to consider a career in science because it is a wonderful place to be.
That's a good point. Donna's a nurse practitioner.
Mm-hmm.
And so she was like, I have this data from she got a doctorate in nurse practitioner, and I'm really interested in further understanding what it means. And I was like, you're a scientist, Donna. So
It's so much fun.
so yeah, we mentor people here. We help them get to study what they're interested in.
We got a question. If
All
you
right.
could explore any passion project outside of your current focus, no limits, what topic would that be?
Oh man, I'm pretty deep in the Alzheimer's disease right now. It's pretty, we still don't know. If you line up 20 individuals that study Alzheimer's disease, they might all give you a different answer as to what causes it. And that's fascinating to me, and none of them are wrong because it's such a complex disease. But if I had, $100 million, $200 million, there are so many holes that I think that we could fill. So yeah, if I had all the money in the world and all the time in the world, I would really just want to solve it, because the other thing that we do as part of our clinical research program is a lot of outreach. So our clinical team is out at the Walk to End Alzheimer's, and we just really get to see firsthand that people are really impacted by it. So I would keep doing what I'm doing, but a lot more of it, so that we could cure this disease that is really impacting everyone, but also starting to impact more of Montana because we have an older population. So,
Perfect.
yeah.
Anything else you want to?
No. If you're really interested in the Institute, we always host a open house on National Science Day. Fortunately, you've been sad for this year. It was in February. I know that not everyone celebrates National Science Day, so you probably didn't know.
I have a 12-year-old that told me.
Okay, yeah. So look for that. If you sign up for our Facebook page or follow us, or sign up, you can come and do the tour, and then you'll get to talk to more of the scientists and ask them questions. If you're interested in the HERO registry, that's at, again, this is going to get confusing, McLaughlinresearch.org.
You'll get there.
Yeah, because we haven't changed our website name yet, /HERO. You can also just call the Institute, which I'll have Rebecca, who's monitoring the chat, put the number to call if you just want someone to sign up for you. And like I said, there's no obligation.
So what if I'm passionate? I'm not the science type.
Yeah.
I don't want to give a sample,
Yeah.
but I want to support you.
Well, we're a nonprofit. Part of the reason that we've been so successful is, of course, the dedication of the people who work here that feel an ownership over the Institute, but also because we're in Great Falls, and there have been generous donors over the years. So if you'd like to donate to the Institute, Rebecca can also put the link in the chat for you to donate. We are very grateful for all the donations we get. We use them very judiciously. It supports the science and the people that are here doing science every day. And, so that is certainly one way that you can support us.
Okay. Anything else you want to add here?
No, I love Great Falls. I love being in Great Falls. I can't believe that I get to be a scientist in Great Falls. I did my PhD and postdoc in Washington. That's okay. Come on. Sorry.
You're good.
Hello. That's one of our Turo students and one of our research assistants. So just thanks, Great Falls, for continuing to support us, for letting me get to be a scientist in my hometown, and letting all the people that work here get to do things they're passionate about right here in Great Falls.
Perfect. Well, thank you, Tiffany. Thanks for the
Thanks, Ed.
tour.
Yeah.
And we appreciate it.